Welcome, everyone. Welcome to the today's LinkedIn Live. I'm Heather Nelson. Please let me know if you have joined. I'm always giving this a little minute at the beginning for everybody to get on board. Today, I am talking about corporate partnerships in times of uncertainty. What a hot topic. For today's LinkedIn Live, I'm Heather Nelson. Please let me know. Sorry about that little glitch over here. Okay, I'm Heather Nelson. I am a corporate fundraising specialist. I work, I'm the CEO and founder of BridgeRaise. BridgeRaise is a consulting firm that helps charities and nonprofits with their corporate partnerships. So we have been meeting with clients and prospects and all sorts of people talking about corporate partnerships, well, all the time, but of course, recently, and gathering data about this time, which is a time of uncertainty in the sector. So hope that you're all joining me here. I wanted to let you know that I am joining today from Canada. This is where I live, work, and fundraise. I have, for the purposes of work, been in touch with fundraisers all across North America and even some globally on this topic. I have read resources and looked into the topic from a lot of different angles and from the perspective of different countries. Having said that, I do fundraise primarily in Canada, and my lens is here. So that is going to be brought to this presentation today, although I have resources that are from outside of Canada that I will mention. I just wanted to own the fact that, yeah, I'm a Canadian here presenting, and that is maybe relevant as we go through some of the slides, because I know that people who are in different communities right now are definitely experiencing different things. I know many of you are living in a period of uncertainty politically, socially, and economically. Here in Canada, we did get a little bit more clarity this week, and I think that that is relevant for this conversation about corporate partnership. To be honest, it still feels like we're a little bit in the gap and we haven't quite landed yet, but certainly some more clarity than we had, before Monday is in place. And that allows us to sort of start thinking about steps that might be available to us now that maybe weren't a week ago. But it also, I want to acknowledge that, it still feels like a space of uncertainty and lack of clarity for many of us. And that is where this conversation is rooted. That is the life that we're living right now. So I do want to own that fact. I'm going to move to having a bit of a presentation up on the screen here with me. I don't always use a presentation for these LinkedIn Lives, but I felt that because I was curating quite a lot of information and I didn't want to miss anything, that for this presentation, it would be most helpful. So I am going to be doing that. I am still live though, so please do feel free to introduce yourself in the chat. And put questions there. If I haven't got them covered in the presentation, I will definitely do my best to answer them along the way or at the end. And if neither of those happen, I will follow up with you, because I really do appreciate people joining in and commenting and asking questions. And so I encourage you to do that. And the reward is I will respond, hopefully with something helpful that meets you where you are and with what you need. So again, introduce yourselves, ask questions, and I will follow up. So here's the topic today: corporate partnerships in times of uncertainty. And I'm going to try to help you navigate this change with confidence, or at least with some clarity around some strategic tactics that I suggest might work. Okay, I'm going to make myself a little smaller and the slides a little bigger for the next few slides, because I have quite a bit of content on them. I've already mentioned, I'm Heather. I just want you to know that one of the core values that I have and that we have at BridgeRaise is like really being a cheerleader, a mentor, a compassionate supporter of fundraisers. And so that is what we hope to, portray in this presentation. I also love building community. I will be providing more resources to people in my community on this topic with my weekly newsletter. I send out stories, I send out workbooks. It's free to be there. And that QR code will send you to a sign up page. So I'd love to have you join us. Thanks to all of you who are joining. Okay, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to work through, I'm going to set the stage a little bit here. I'm going to present some of the signals we're seeing, some of the trends that I'm hearing, some that have data, some that don't. We'll talk about that. Then I'm going to talk about some strategies about how you can stay fundable and what kind of pivots or I know we all hate that word, don't we? But adjustments, strategies you can employ to stay fundable in light of this period of uncertainty. I'm going to talk about leading through change, some of those strategies that might be helpful, and then taking the long view. There's some cool strategies there too that I think might help us all. Okay, so that's my goal for the next 20 minutes or so. Thanks to everybody who's saying hi in the chat. I see your names coming up and I love it. I appreciate you so much for showing up live. Okay, as I said, the landscape of uncertainty is, the reality that we're in. And I mean, the reality of, honestly, the last few years have had this element to it. It's, increasingly complex, a little bit unpredictable maybe, and messy. And that is part of what we're working with. And so I think it's useful to acknowledge that and accept that is, what we're facing. Well, I have said a couple of times that I feel that I'm a corporate partnership specialist. I am no more of an expert in where this uncertainty will land than any of you. I am, in this case, a curator. So I have done my best to go out into the world and ask questions specifically on corporate partnership and what people are seeing, what people are experiencing. And I've read relevant articles, gone to some different, even workshops outside of this sector. So I can try to curate and share with you what I'm seeing, what I'm hearing, and apply the lens that I have from my experience with corporate partnerships in the past. Usually I find doing presentations, relatively easy, but in this case, it was not easy. That's why I have notes, and that's why I have a presentation, because with all the uncertainty, it was really difficult to sort of land on exactly what I wanted to say today. But we've been talking to clients and asking them to take action, even though it's uncertain. That taking action is a principle that I use in our work, and I'm always encouraging people to outreach more, communicate more with their corporate partners. And it seemed really not authentic for me to sit quietly and not make a comment about all the things that we're facing in corporate partnerships because I wasn't sure. It seemed like the right move was to take action, and that's me showing up here and taking action and doing my best to provide some insights that you'll find helpful. But I reiterate, I have no crystal ball, and I don't know for absolute certainty that anything that I'm suggesting is going to 100% work. But I will suggest that across the board, what I'm hearing from all the experts and specialists is that taking action in this landscape of uncertainty, communicating more, connecting more, is one of the principles that we all believe is going to work the best for all of us. And so I am here for that. Okay, so a reminder, uncertainty isn't new. We have all faced political, economic, and social turbulence in the past, whether it be more recently with the pandemic and all of the things that we experienced there that were totally unexpected, felt like a sci-fi movie come to life, right? We never would have anticipated that before it happened. And yet, many of our organizations came out more resilient than ever. And for some of us who've been around longer, we've been around through other recessionary periods in the past and come out the other side. That doesn't mean that we don't acknowledge that there is losses in each of these periods, that sometimes this turbulence and uncertainty does lead to some organizations not surviving or some programs not surviving. And we want to minimize that damage. But we also have a lot of muscles that we can use, that we can lean on from our past of living through them. Another important thing to remember as we're facing this political uncertainty is our corporate partners and leaders on the other side are facing it too. And sometimes when I hear charities talking about what they're going through, it does sometimes have a very inward looking kind of perspective where you're feeling like you should have the answers or you should know what the company is experiencing or thinking. And right now, they are also experiencing similar levels of uncertainty. They are also unsure. So, thinking about us more as all in the same boat, trying to figure out a great path forward that works for everybody, as opposed to we're experiencing it more on the nonprofit side or they're experiencing it more on the corporate side, I think is a really, really good strategy. It's like facing everyone. Uh, Perhaps we all have different perspective and different experiences of it, but how can we come together and communicate about that to come up with what I have as the third point: creativity, resilience. Where can we find those nuggets of possibility within this space of uncertainty? And I think, that how we find those is usually by reaching out and more communication, not isolation. So really be thinking about that as an underpinning to some of the strategies I'm going to talk about. Okay, so maybe what everybody wants to know, what are some information to inform us? So we do not have at this stage, as far as I can tell, any definitive report on exactly what's going to happen with our economic landscape, nor with our political landscape. And more specifically, we don't have a report on how this is impacting corporate partnerships in North America. What we do know is that a lot of people are having conversations about this. I can't be in all of them, but I've been in quite a few recently, and that there is some data points that we can apply. And so I've been listening to organizations like Future of Good, Imagine Canada, Realized Worth, Global Giving, some economic papers. I have been checking in with my community and asking them what is their experience, and some of the great corporate partnership leaders in this country, and ask them what they're going through. And it's from that space that I'm going to provide some of the trends and findings that I'm going to share. Okay, so here is my first few. Funders pausing or accelerating decisions depending on their sector risk. So this is sort of a two-sided one. We are hearing from one group, Realized Worth, and a workshop talked about this, that there was a real trend towards a wait and see mindset amongst a lot of US-based companies. I've heard similar messages among some of the groups I've been in, where particularly in advance of the election, there was, we want to see where some things settle, maybe where things settle on Canadian tariffs. So some companies are in a wait and see mode. Conversely, we have others that are taking action to accelerate their buying their investment decisions, because they know what's happening right now and they don't know what's going to happen a year from now. So we have seen, like, on balance, that happening as well. I will say, anecdotally, I've heard quite a few organizations talk about a caution around multi-year agreements with corporate partnership, and being more focused on 1-year renewal. So, for me, that means if you already have a multi-year in place, the chances of renewing that are higher. But if you're going in for the first time, maybe this is a time to focus more on 1-year renewals. And then the I hesitate to even call it a trend. The reality of the direction from the U.S. government around diversity, equity, and inclusion has had a huge impact on corporate partnerships in the U.S. in particular, and we are seeing some ripples of that in Canada as well. The desired, what this leads to is some companies who are, particularly influenced or have strong ties with government funding or really need to be cautious about their relationship with the government have had to make adjustments. At the same time, we've seen other purpose-oriented companies really stand strong for their DEI position and maybe advocate even more strongly for that. So knowing where the particular company that you're talking about fits, but there clearly is on the charity side some real reflection around this and some further exploration. I'm going to talk about that in the strategy side in a few slides. We also have some other trends that could be considered more positive, or at least worth using as a balanced perspective. There's clear data around impact capital is rising, and there's a large pool globally. We've got this information from Imagine Canada, and I'm going to circle back to this in a data point in a second. But this idea of more broad-based thinking about what impact capital is. So investors and more creative partnership solutions, as well as the CSR investment in charities. So it does require thinking more widely about the kind of money and partnership examples that might be in place. The second point, there is sector variability. I talk about this all the time when we're thinking about during COVID, we talked about this as well, that in any situation, there are some companies that feel the impact more strongly than other companies, some sectors that might feel it more vibrantly than others. I'm pulling a quote from Warren Buffett. Didn't think I'd be quoting him today, but I did find this quote: "A simple rule that dictates my buying. Be fearful when others are greedy, and be greedy when others are fearful." Well, I'm not sure that I'm totally, all in on Warren Buffett. But what I am suggesting here is that kind of idea that, there is some companies that will be taking risks. There'll be companies who will be innovating. There'll be companies that will have the ability to pivot in this current environment, that will gain market share, that will be gaining revenue. At the same time, there's other sectors for a variety of reasons that may be more heavily impacted. So when you're thinking about your corporate partnership strategies, can you lean into those places where there is more opportunity and, perhaps either, keep transparent communication open, but perhaps a little bit less pressure, a little bit less strategy around those companies that might be facing more significant consequences. When thinking about new partners, one of the strategies that I've heard a number of people talk about is mid-sized companies, in particular, who are privately owned. So they may have, there's different levels of influence with the government on privately owned companies. They may be able to, stay truer to their values in some ways. We may see that. Certainly they can communicate in a different way. So there may be opportunities there. And then also consider intermediary opportunities. I heard from Global Giving, and I know in Canada we have Canada Helps that can be intermediaries for companies who want to give to charities. And in some cases, this might be an opportunity, these sort of compiled funds, and how you can get access and giving from them. So good to consider. And then finally, this has been, it's not even a trend anymore. This has been an area that has been so important to companies, and this is not going away. Employee engagement, employee education, fundraising through employee teams, matching funds to employees' volunteerism. These are strategies that really, really make sense in this current climate of uncertainty. And we need to keep our eyesight on those as opportunities to lean into. Just want to mention this data point specifically in a recent poll by Imagine Canada of a group of Canadian business CSR leaders. 45% of participants said their company hadn't changed how it talks about social purpose. 41 have made small changes, and 9% have made significant shifts. So we are seeing that there's at least a good percentage of companies that are like sort of holding true to the programs that they've put in place. For any of you who are not following Imagine Canada, they put out great data for Canadian charities and companies working in this partnership space, and I encourage you to check it out. They have a blog coming out that has this data point and some other important information in the next little bit. So stay tuned. Okay, so now we want to stay fundable. And so this is really like looking at those trends and seeing how can we apply these in a way that really, helps leverage what we have to offer, the value we have at our organizations in a way that fits with how companies are behaving right now. And so I want to talk about some really practical strategies to help do that. Okay, so here we go. Number one is, in particular, if you're thinking about the DEI lens and companies that are based in the US and have Canadian operations, or if you're in the US, this is relevant for you, make sure that you can consider reframing your programs while preserving mission integrity. So this is, is this about word choice? Is this about how you present the program? I did hear on a number of different webinars, people choosing different language, expanding the metrics that they were reporting on as a strategy. One group talked about even that, to include the data on all participants, the need across all participants. I think that this is an opportunity to consider, is this right for your organization or not? It may not be the right strategy for everybody, but it is a strategy that is available to you if you're thinking about corporate partnership, and that company may be in a transition period in terms of what they feel comfortable speaking about publicly. There is no question that measurability, impact measurement is increasingly a focus of community investment departments. They really want to know for sure that their money is making an impact. And how can you balance that off against your storytelling and your anecdotal evidence? So continuing to flex that muscle in terms of impact story being balanced is a core strategy, has been for a while. And, in times of austerity or more careful decision making, those organizations that can hit both of those key points for a company will be prioritized in their investments. And there's no doubt about that. I really like the idea of thinking about how to be adaptable, how to adjust through communication with your corporate partners and prospects. Going in with, a totally firm idea and totally canned idea is never the strategy that I recommend, but I think is even more true right now, where you can meet them in the place of what could work for you and what can fit with where you're at in making decisions at your side. So that may include speeding things up, as I said previously, where they're trying to invest in things sooner. It may involve slowing things down. It may require some remessaging. I have heard from a number of corporate partnership practitioners that some companies are feeling more cautious about doing cause marketing. So this could be flip side to highly purpose-driven companies or privately owned companies that may be able to lean into cause marketing more. That's the balance, but definitely this idea of retribution or being really concerned about going too publicly with a cause marketing message, causing some challenges, is something that companies are being cautious about. So might be looking at the corporate partnership mix you have. If cause marketing is one element of that mix, how can you de-emphasize that, or just make sure that you're having very early conversations about how comfortable people are with that? And then finally, I want to put out this make offers that companies can say yes to. I was on a webinar with Keith Ipel, the CEO of Spring, and he talked about this idea of what offer meets the moment. And so thinking about what is the appropriate offer or ask that fits with where we're at right now. So one thought is that, this employee engagement piece being really important, or focus on community building and belonging, which I think are areas that really fit with the moment. The 1 year, maybe it's a smaller on-ramp partnership, knowing that, you're going to build the relationship towards something bigger over time. These are all things that you can consider when you're thinking about what makes sense right now. And it may not be the thing that was strategically the best idea a year ago, and being able to adjust and be a bit nimble right now and go for the thing that a company can say yes to that fits the moment, I think is really great advice. So thanks to Keith for that great advice on a recent webinar I was on. So the last area I want to talk about is leading with confidence. And I know that this might be very hard to imagine right now when, in uncertainty, there is that temptation, I think, for many of us to hold back. But I'm encouraging you to go forward without perfection, that accepting that this period of uncertainty is true for everybody. Therefore, it'll be very difficult for everybody to be perfect in this moment. But what we can be is transparent, we can be open, and we can communicate both with each other as corporate partnership practitioners and learn from each other and share experience, and also share experience with our corporate partnership partners. So when we have this kind of uncertainty, what we can do is we can focus on what we can control. And I really encourage you to consider this. Things we can control. We can control the relationships we have. Bridgeray's ethos and values is always focused on this idea of relationships first. And leaning into your values is something that you really can control. So I encourage you to do the same. That idea of keeping connected, really believing in your relationships, staying in touch with people, check in often, check in consistently. Even if the corporate prospect or partner doesn't answer, it's okay. If it's a respectful, authentic outreach, then I encourage you to do it and stay in touch. Also think about making it really easy to be your partner. I mean, being present, immediate responses, even if it's I'm going to get back to you by next week, those kind of little things that make it easy to partner with you are great strategies at this time when other things are uncertain. Can you provide a bit of certainty? Can you be extra clear? As I mentioned, I think a strategy you can have is to adjust your language, but not your mission. So how you frame your work might adjust without adjusting the core essence of what you do. And think long term. I mean, we want to make sure that we continue to maintain corporate partnerships, but in some cases, this may be the time to build more relationships that may take longer to convert, but you'll be there when it's the right time. That this turbulent time is going to get more settled. All the economic forecast webinars that I sat in on, and let me tell you, that's not my favorite webinar, but all of them said, is it 6 months, 9 months, 12 months? We're not exactly sure how far off it is, but there will be a settling, a stabilization, and we are going to get out of this really turbulent time. So here we go. So take the long view, take a step back, believe in your mission, and, stay focused on the fact that if you build these relationships, the partnerships can come over time. You are needed more than ever. I love my charity partners, friends, clients, community. Trust yourself to take compassionate action. I know that if you take action, you outreach, you're going to do it from a warm a loving place, and that is going to be better than staying quiet and scared. So I'm on your side, and I am, giving you all the props to take action. I wanted to just give a shout out to all of these resources that I looked into to anchor this presentation. I so appreciate all of them for giving their thoughts, their time, curating information for me. And I will be sharing more links to these resources with people on my newsletter. So if you're interested in that, here it is. I'd love to hear what your biggest takeaway is in the chat. Please connect with me on LinkedIn. I love getting to know all of you. And just, a reminder that being in community is where I've learned so much of what I shared with you today, asking people what their experiences are. And I will tell you that several clients of mine shared new partnerships this week. They closed new partnerships. They got new money from companies. So it is happening. People are still building partnerships. Companies are still investing in charities. Is some of it slower? Yes. Is some of it a little bit different than it maybe has been in the past? Also, yes. But it's still happening. So it's happening for those that are reaching out. You should be one of those. Let me know how it goes. I'm on your team, and I'd love to hear how it goes. So don't hesitate to reach out. That is all for my presentation today. Thank you, everybody who is here. If you're watching this on the replay, please do leave a comment. I will follow up with any questions that are in the chat. And just thank you so much. Appreciate you. I look forward to being in touch. Until next time, thanks.